And welcome to another installment of Believe in Chargers with the great Lorenzo Neal. Matt Money Smith here as we are just a couple weeks out now from the draft. Very exciting. April 23rd, I think it gets rolling. So pretty much 2 weeks out, Lo. Very exciting. And I'll tell you, maybe it's a little bit later than that, 27th maybe. Anyway, big thank you to our friends at FanDuel as we remind you they've got everything. And if you can't tell, I'm excited about the Masters. I'm looking at their Masters odds right now, Low. Scotty, even though it has not been going great for him here early in the season, he is your favorite at plus 500. DeChambeau right behind him at plus 1,000 with Rahm at 1,000 and the defending champ Rory at plus 1,300. Are you a Masters guy, Low?
Well, you know what? I do dibble and dabble in the Masters. It's just watching these guys, the way that they compete on such a high level. Love Roy, big, tall, and of course Shambo, Fresno guy, kind of native. We got some
Yeah,
ties
that's right.
here. Come on, baby. So I'm on it.
That's
I'm on
right.
it, money. So I definitely will watch and peek in on it. I just love sports in general. I thought I gotta as I digress. Were you a big winner, loser with this men's NCAA finals? Did you have
Ah,
Michigan? Did you see the way those old men played, or are you shocked at all, or not at
I
all?
enjoyed it. I was telling someone this the other day. Or the other day. It was yesterday. Um, I didn't enjoy them winning. I don't know why. I can't put my finger on it. It's not that I really
They're too
wanted
old.
UConn to win or Arizona to win. I think I would have liked to have seen Illinois win. Just, it's something you never see. But, Mara was a UCLA guy. He transferred in. Uh, Lundeberg was a UAB guy. Cadeau was a North Carolina guy. It's a team. It's a team of mercenaries, that
Yeah,
were all assembled. Heck, Wagner was a Illinois guy. It's like, so it's just one of those teams that I found it hard to kind of get behind, and I think,
I can see
you know, I
why.
yeah. So I think that's kind of where I'm at.
Do you think the college is heading the wrong direction? Of course, you want to see guys get compensated, and hey, look, pay the guys, but do you think it should be some type of cap? You say, hey, look, every year you go to college, you get $50,000 in your books. 5 years after you're done with college, now that money's been rolled over, it's made you some income. Should it be something like that? If you decide to come back, you go out of leave college early, then that money you forfeit because it's just when you're talking about mercenaries, how are these smaller schools gonna be able to compete when it's just so much money at the top?
Well, as you know, I'm a free market guy. I'm a free trade guy. So if these
Listen at
colleges
you. I'm
are
not letting you
gonna,
get away with that.
if they're gonna bank these hundreds of millions and billions of dollars in television contracts, then I would just as soon see it go into the pockets. And as someone who wrote some sizable checks for one child to go to a private university and was the beneficiary of the state school system at Cal Poly for my other daughter, and appreciative of that, that my tax dollars actually went to my my middle daughter getting a fantastic education at Cal Poly SLO while, I'm just paying a minuscule amount compared to what my older daughter got me to pay for the private education. The point I'm making is, hey, I'd rather the kids pocket it than the university. Those endowments are so gigantic, and the exorbitant fees they continue to charge are making college, I think, less appealing for families, and that's not something I'm for. I am for education and for people bettering themselves and living independently for those 4 years. They're incredibly formative years, and it's gotten so. And now I'm on this stupid soapbox.
No, you're not. No, it's as good.
So my point is, I get what you're saying. It has taken some of the romance out of it. But I'll say this, as this is Believe in Chargers, and I don't want to get too deep on it, but I think what it has done, and this applies to the Chargers, right? Because you have an Akheem Mesidor who's 25 years old and just hitting the draft, and I think that's a guy we're going to talk about here as a potential draft pick for the Chargers. You're getting kids that are staying in longer because there's a financial incentive, and they don't belong in the NBA and they don't
Agreed.
belong in the NFL. They're just coming based on potential. So I do kind of like that there is so much money now available for them that they are becoming better players and more professional ready by the time they get to these teams that are drafted. And they have kind of a much larger sample size for a lot of these players. And to me, I think just to kind of shift it to that whole Mesidor conversation, like if you're the Chargers, and you tell me I've got to choose between the 20 won't be 21 until the season, Keldrick Falk, and the 25-year-old helped guide Miami to a national championship, Akheem Mesidor, for this team that I think has a chance to win the Super Bowl right now. Well, you know where
Not a
mine is,
close.
right? Give me the 25-year-old that I can drop in there and kick inside or rush outside, and he's versatile enough to be a D tackle, an interior pass rusher in the NASCAR package, or an edge rusher in the pack. Give me that guy. I don't care what the number next to his name says.
I'm 1000% with you. Same church, same pew. When you got somebody got a little lead in the ass and you compare to a young guy who's 18, 19, 21 years old, still haven't matured at their full capacity, you get someone 25, you're pretty much fully developed. You're talking about hitting your stride. You're talking about hitting your peak years from that 25 to 33, 32. You are in a peak. You can maintain 25 to 32, 32, 33. You start to, now it's just like, just stay average, hold it for couple years after that if you're going to continue to play. But absolutely, you can get a guy, Mesor, 25 years old, that's bigger, that's mature, that's stronger, that's it's in the weight room,
Yeah.
and you're talking about playing in the National Football League and talking about playing in the trenches. Without a doubt, he's the guy that you got to look at very seriously. And for this team, where they're at and what they want to do in the playoff run or possibly Super Bowl, the window's open. This is the Chargers, time to strive because their window is open right now.
Yeah, and I think, look, Mesidor's an interesting one, right? Especially when it comes to the Chargers, because he's he's 2 year or he's a year and a half. He's a year and a half, maybe 2 full years older than Thule. He's like, that's how old that guy is, and that's how young Thule was. So when you talk about someone like Keldrick Falk, like that's what Thule was, and that's why he slid to the second round because he was so young. And now you see, my gosh, they've got a guy who's 24 years old or 23 going on 24 years old. Like, I don't remember what Thule is right now, but that now it's like, oh my gosh, what a jewel, what a gem you have because of how young he is. But at the same time, that was different, right? He was a second round pick. They had Bosa and Khalil Mack in their primes, just entering their prime for,
Right.
I shouldn't say, but in the thick of their prime. So it was a different sort of deal. I think right now with where this team is, the fact that they need a third edge rusher and they need an interior pass rush. Like that's what makes Mesidor so intriguing to me is that, he started as an interior defensive lineman, and then he got kicked out to the edge. And so when I look at Thule and I think about the way they've used him and the way that, that Mike Elston and Dylan Roney like to use these edge rushers in that NASCAR package with the defensive tackles, like Mesidor just looks like it's such a good fit. It's a natural fit, and I don't know if he'll be there. I think you put on some of those you put on the tape of some of those games, and you just see him absolutely wrecking shop, especially if you're watching the playoff.
Right.
That A&M game was ridiculous, and there's enough in there. And I know there is some concern about the size. He's not 6'6" on the edge. He's 6'3". It's not 33-inch arms. It's 32. Like there's that sort of stuff that's there. That doesn't bother me at all. I look at the versatility, and I think you could probably make a case that he's the best interior lineman in the draft. That like if you wanted to like if you were like, oh, it'd be cool to get Peter Woods here or Lee Hunter or something. It's like, well, think about Mesidor. You would stack him ahead of those guys if you were looking for an interior defensive lineman, and that may be the way you want to use him.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to just see would he be there. And I think that's the question. If it ends and buts was cans and nuts, we'll all have a Merry Christmas. But is he going to be there for the Chargers? Because,
Yeah.
like you said, if you can drop him in, and everyone's like, "Oh well, he's already in his prime. You want to stay away from him." You want guys to stay away. You want teams to be like, "Oh, he's too old. Let's go with a younger guy so we can build him." A guy like Messi, you say, "Look, he's a plug and play guy. He's 25. He still can make gains. He's going to be in with the pros. So his level of to reach a goal quicker is going to be a lot more faster than a young guy in 19, 20 years old because he's already mature enough. So he's going to make those gains. So I think that you're talking about a Charger team that every year someone's going to pluck your coach, someone's going to pluck your players.
Yeah.
This is
If
the
they're good.
window right now. When you're good and you're ranked in the top 10, why do you think the DC is gone? When you're
Yeah.
good, why do you think players are gone, leaving the door and saying, okay, we're out of here? Because of the fact teams understand they want winners, they want champions, and
When you say that low, I can't help but think of our man Mike Singletary. I want winners. I want people that want to win. You can't be coming to the sideline, walking off, and it's nonchalant. It's the greatest. I want people that want to win. Poor Vernon. Um, Poor Vernon. But to your point, and like, and I wanted them to re-sign Zion. I hope that they can figure something out with Q because he's gotten better every year. But you're talking about first round picks, and you've got Hampton last year, Alt the year before, Q, Zion, Slater, Herbert, Tillery was before that, Derwin before that. So it's kind of a mixed bag, right? Like their their last two first round picks that came up for a fifth year option, and we'll see whether or not they decide to make an $18 million scratch an $18 million check out to Q. I don't know if they'll do that. They have the money to do it, but I tend to lean toward. I feel like we'd hear more like they were going to, and there would be kind of more of that. Oh yeah, absolutely. We're in on Q. He's gotten better every year, back to back 8 touchdowns. I mean, what's there's no question, and we just haven't heard that. So
can they
you got first
restructure
round
this type of
picks.
deal? Could they
What's that?
restructure? Could they restructure Q in some way?
Well, they could just offer him, say, hey, we're going to decline the 5th-year option, and here's what we're thinking. How about a 4-year, 13 mil per or 15 mil per, just to kind of get a little, here's a 4-year 60 with 24 guaranteed kind of thing. Like, I think that's what they could do is say, we don't want to pay you
No.
18.8, and you're not going to get into that $20-25 million range, but we think based on you being a potential wide receiver too, if nothing else, a very, very high end, like best in the league wide receiver 3. This is what the number is. I think they could do that. I could see that. But what I'm saying is, like, for people that are like, oh, Mesidor's too old. Okay, well, Zion Young just left after 4 years. Q might be leaving after 4 years if they don't pick up that 5th-year option. It doesn't always work out like it did with Slater, like it did with Herbert, like it does with Derwin. Sometimes it's Zion and the number gets too big, and you're like, yeah, we're good. We got a good 4 years out of them, and now we're on to the next one. And so I think that's where the Mesidor thing comes in. This team's ready to win. I mean, I'm looking at the FanDuel
No.
odds right now, and they are, as we've said, third to win the AFC Championship behind the Bills plus 490, Ravens plus 500, Chargers plus 700. Give me
Yeah.
the 25-year-old. Give me
Yeah.
the guy that's ready, because and I'll toss this at you, Lo. Like, in all your years playing, how often, like, if you, and I don't know if it's easy or not to put like a percentage on it, how often do you feel like your first round pick on the team that showed up was ready to go and ready to step in and really contribute from day one?
You know what? It's a handful. I remember when I played with the Saints. I know this guy was ready. Played against him in college. You just knew he's a grown man. Willie Rofe.
Yeah, yeah,
Hall of Famer. I mean, played against him when he's at. I was at Fresno State. He was Louisiana Tech. So saw what he did to some of our linemen. I saw Irv Smith for, late first, early, and just the, okay, could he play and help you out? Yeah, but those are the guys going to give you some more reps. You can see a huge if you're picking top 10, and that's what's tough. When you're picking early, that means you got a bad team. So that's the bad
yeah,
part. The good part means you can get some cream of the crop talent. But then you got to realize after 4 or 5 years, the bad part again, since there's such a high tender in that market, now you got to spend a lot of money. So it's a lot of those guys are leaving the door. When you get those later round draft picks, you know what? You tend to be able to can restructure because they haven't had that big amount of money. These guys are more willing to say, I'll just stay. I'm content with this. So it's a good and it's a curse and it's a blessing to go high. So without a doubt, I think it's about 50-50. It could even be, I'm going to say even lower than that, especially when you're talking about quarterback, some skill positions, just guys aren't ready. offensive linemen. There's not a lot of Slaters, and that's why Joe Alt and Slater stepped
Yeah.
in, and they were men chow. So you have to be there is a awful lot of guys. Just like we can name positives, lots of busts that was first round pick, just not physically and mentally ready for the next level.
All right, let's talk about ZipRecruiter. If you own a business or if you are in a position at a business where you're doing the hiring, ZipRecruiter is a must. You want to find people that fit your culture, your job description perfectly, and you know they want to work for you. That is exactly what ZipRecruiter does. They know who's going to be a good fit because they have the opportunity to crunch all the numbers, to examine all the data, and they do it so quickly. If you are hiring, you want that passionate candidate, and you can't get that from an email and a resume. So post on ZipRecruiter, let them do the heavy lifting. You can try it for free right now at ziprecruiter.com/audio. They have their powerful matching technology. They're going to find candidates quickly, and they have a new feature that shows the most interested qualified candidates first. That way, you're going to meet the right people faster before somebody else meets them before you and snatches them up underneath what you're trying to do. And candidates tell you in their own words that they're interested in your job. They are the number one rated hiring site based on G2. So lean on ZipRecruiter. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it for free. Again, we're talking about one day. Try it for free at ziprecruiter.com/audio. That is ziprecruiter.com/audio. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Yeah, and I think, the thing that came up, for, and I'm pulling up his career because I know last year was a little bit of a down year, but, Dexter Lawrence wants a trade. Dexter Lawrence isn't happy in New York. Jim's brother's there. I would like to think that Jim maybe makes a call and says, "Listen, if you're really gonna, if you guys are really gonna trade Dexter Lawrence, you do not trade him until you call us and you let us know what's the market, what are you getting offered, because we're going to start with number 22 and we're going to figure out where to go from there." Because I know he's 29 and I know he's 340 pounds, but man, I'm looking at his snaps and I see 700, 700, 750, 900, 700, 600, 750. You give me the most dominant he is a unicorn. He is a
Yeah.
one of one. I get it. Chris Jones and Jeffrey Simmons are a little bit cut from a little bit of a different cloth, but when you're talking about 350, 360, and you can move like that, and you have to be double teamed in order to have a chance against that guy, and that changes the math. That changes everything, man. I will be glad to give up number 22, restructure a deal, give him the Milton Williams contract. He's making, I think, 21 and a half. Here's 26. Take it. You're now in the top 5 of interior defensive linemen. That would change. He was the 17th pick in 2019. So I think if you're giving him 22, it should be enough. But I could totally see the Lions giving him 17. I think that there are teams ahead of the Chargers that would probably be happy to give up their first as well.
And you look at the team like the Lions, you think about a team like the Chargers, you say, well, why would they want a guy like that in the middle? You said a mouthful. What he would bring to the table, and that's what people are saying. You win 2 more games with him, because you got to realize that, like, how can a defense? I'm telling you, he can infect the game from the inside that affects the outside. When you have a guy, you see it all the time, money. Every time the quarterback, they want to step up in the pocket because you got great speed rushers on the outside. They step up. If you have a guy now that can collapse that pocket, and that quarterback can't step up at 7 yards deep or 8 yards deep when he usually climbs up, you're going to talk about there's going to be a party at the quarterback.
Right.
That's what you get because you have great pass rushers with the Chargers, outside pass rushers. You bring this guy in, I'm giving my 22. I make this. I'm hardball. It's my brother. Look, it's the NFC, AFC. It's not going to hurt you. We don't have to face each other. Let's make this deal. Let's make a deal. I
Yeah,
like that shit.
I have no idea, but I'm looking at his win rates. I'm looking at his pressures, and a guy that is 300, he's listed at 342. And that's a big number. He's 350 plus tax, 350 plus tax. I mean, you're talking about 71 pressures in 23, 76 pressures in 22. It's dropped off a little bit, 46, 31, 33, but the pass rush numbers have gone down a little bit from those years. So the win percentage is still in the 11s and 12s. And again, last year was a down year. Remember Carl Banks, our friend Carl Banks, who does Believe in Giants, went after him and said, and I'm not one to step to Carl Banks, but I think you look at the way the season went for the Giants last year, and it was a mess. And it's one thing when you're Cam Scattaboo and Malik Neighbors, who got hurt obviously early, but Jackson Dart and some of these young guys, Abdul Carter. And it's another thing when you're a 29-year-old that's getting double teamed on every freaking snap. I mean, you can speak to that better than I can, but I mean, when you're a 3 or a 4-win team, to me, that's got to be hard as a freaking 29-year-old in his 7th season. Like, man, come on, man. I'm getting the S kicked out of me right now. And we're sitting at 3 wins and I'm breaking in a rookie running back and my freak or a rookie quarterback and my running back is like eating glass and doing Instagram video. Like, what are we doing?
Right. What are we doing? Come on. I like it. Come on, man. No money. You have it absolutely right. It is a come on, man moment. When you're 29 and you're in the league and you're especially playing interior lineman, what you're talking about, a guy 350 pounds plus possibly, and you know you have to be a space eater and guys are laying on you, double teaming you, and you're like, okay, if I do this for what? Now I know everything that I do is on tape. I know people are watching me. I know I'm not giving a good impression. That's why you had the Hall of Famer Carl Banks go after him. But it's like if I play at the level that I know I can play, and I'm losing, I understand you're getting paid. So people say, so what? He's
Yeah.
getting paid. He should play at a higher level. I get it. But he understands there's a limited amount in that body. If he is to come to the Chargers, he'll be a Pro Bowl guy. Absolutely, he would drop 10 to 15, 20 pounds. The guy would play at a high level because it's a different environment, it's a different space, it's a different team, and it's a team that's ready to win. I go out there and you have interior lineman, you get 2 sacks as an interior lineman, you have 4 or 5 tackles, you change the game. If you're doing that and you're losing, you didn't change the game. You did nothing but just play. So it is very frustrating. It's very hard, especially for those big men that play interior linemen.
Yeah, and we know him well. I mean, he had that ridiculous interception in week 4 against Herbert that he damn near took to the house had Herbert not tripped him up. I mean, that's a 350 plus pound man picking off Herbert and freaking running it back 35 yards. That's how athletic that guy is. If they're really going to be dumb enough to trade him, then sign me up. That's 22 and then some. I'm fine with that. Send him 22, and that's kind of and that's sort of what we were talking about, right? With the salary cap spaces, it's going to get spent somehow, some way. They're going to spend it if it's after the draft when all the compensatory pick formula goes out the window and now you can sign anyone you want without having to worry about losing your third that you're going to get for Oweh, and Batonio can be brought in, or there can be you can get your backup corners, safeties, offensive linemen, all that stuff can be taken care of. You can get an edge. If you don't get an edge in the draft, go get Leonard Floyd or something like that to fill that space, like the stuff that Coach Harbaugh was talking about at the owners' meetings, that, competitors welcome. There's still work to be done in the draft and free agency. They're going to spend it, but this is where it comes into play, where a guy's making $22 million a year. And I called him 29. He's 28. He'll be 29 in November. So even better. And I think this is where having 40 plus million bucks left comes into play. It's like, great. Well, now instead of signing, Siomalo at guard or, Linderbaum at center instead of Biotish, I got Dexter Lawrence, and you're restructuring his deal, and you got him locked up for 4 years at a solid number that's affordable for you. And then you can worry about, either signing an edge at a lower rate or drafting one in the second round and figuring out guard again as street free agents. Batonio's the one that makes the most sense because he's been a left guard. He played over 1,000 snaps there last year. He's a San Pedro dude, so might want to come home. Like, you can make it. Well, I can't just make a case. It's not even making a case. It's just a statement of fact. Dexter Lawrence would be the best player in the draft this year. He would be the number 1 player in the draft, and not Arvell Reese, not Mendoza, not David Bailey, not any of those guys. It would be Dexter Lawrence. He
Yeah.
would be the number 1. So if you can get the number 1 player in the draft for $25 million a year and you have the cap space and number 22, to hell with that. Go get it.
And I don't think people realize what you just the way you laid that out. They say, "Hey, look, we need a guard," and people don't understand. When you go to the draft, it's like, okay, you may need a guard, you may need a quarterback, you may be, but then it comes down to, but who's the best? If there's four guys better than what you were thinking this quarterback or this offensive lineman was going to be, you go get that guy because you know he's going to help your team more. So that's what people have to realize what you're laying out. People are talking about, okay, yeah, you're spending this money, but you're going out and getting a veteran, a guy that can play, that is an all pro type of nose guard who can dominate a football game. Yes, it would be equivalent of getting the first pick in the draft and
Yeah.
then some.
Yeah. I mean, and again, I'm looking at it. He played 45 snaps against the Chargers, had 4 pressures and an interception. And it was their first loss. Remember, they were 3-0,
Right.
and they left New York, and they were like, "What the hell happened? How did we lose this game?" And it's like, number 97. That's how you lost it, basically.
Oh yeah.
And it was his pressure that led to a lot of that edge pressure. And obviously, Alt went down, and it kind of unraveled from there. They got jumped from the start. Jackson Dart, and what Dayball was running at him with that quarterback mesh, and Scattaboo, and it just, and the turnovers and all. But point being, Dexter Lawrence is made available. We think AJ Brown's going to be made available after June 1st. Like there is some rhyme or reason to maybe holding on to, you got voluntary workouts right now. Guys aren't showing up. People are upset that some dudes aren't there at the voluntary workouts, and that's where having that cap space can come in handy. And like I said, it's gonna get spent. And so if you can spend over half of it on Dexter Lawrence, then by all means, it's a pretty darn good use of it.
Where are you at with the receiver? Do you throw your hat? You throw your hat in the ring, or it's just no
Uh,
much?
well, if you ask me one or the other, give me Lawrence.
Oh,
Like
of
if you
course.
told me it's
Yeah.
either
Of course.
AJ Brown or Dexter Lawrence, give me
Yeah.
Dexter Lawrence. But I think it's a Mike McDaniel conversation. Like, hey, how much bet? Like, because if you ask Chris O'Leary, how much better are we with Dexter Lawrence? Considerably. How much better are we with AJ Brown? Oh, we're better, but I can visualize this room, and I think Trey Harris is ready to take a step. I think Ladd is going to put together a 100 catch season, 1,500-yard season, knock on the door of double-digit touchdowns with what Mike McDaniel can do with him and how versatile he is. And Q can do what he did last year, between 600 and 800 yards and 8 touchdowns. Okay, we're good. If you say I could really use a number one, if you give me a number one like AJ, man, the things we can do with Harris and McConkey, with AJ taking all that attention, like then okay, let's go. And I do think there's some merit to that as well. So, I mean, Lo, you've been there enough times. I mean, you made a run to the Super Bowl. Like blue chip players matter in the playoffs.
Oh,
They
they do.
might not, you might be able to get by in the regular season with a really good team and win some games. But man, when you get into the postseason, you got to have elite players, and it's the only way you win playoff games.
Oh, no question. Got in the playoffs, and you had the great late Steve McNair,
Yeah,
take over a game. And just watching him play. Eddie George from the Ohio State Heisman. You had guys like that said, "Okay, let me stand up and play big." Javon Curse, of course, the great late Frank Wycheck. You're talking
yeah,
about blue chip players like you're talking about that stepped up in crucial games that said, "I'm going to make a difference." Kenny Holmes. I don't know if you remember him from Miami.
yeah.
And you're talking about guys that you make a point. And it's like, wow,
Lorenzo Neal.
when you think about it, you want those players to make plays for you when it matters. In the playoffs, you got to have guys that got a couple pairs on you because the ebb and flows of the game. You've seen it with this Charger. You're like, okay, you're waiting. Who's going to make a play? Who's going to step up? It's crazy in the playoffs. You're built a little different. Playoffs is way, way different than the regular season.
Yeah, look what happened last year in the Patriots game. They only allowed 16 points. Defense stepped up, right? Thule, Owe, Khalil Mack, Derwin James, they all played their asses off. And what happened? Their blue chip players, Milton Williams wrecked the game on the interior. just absolutely destroyed Bradley Bozeman in that game.
Yeah.
Zion got wrecked on the interior
Yeah.
as well, and Christian Gonzalez locked it down on the outside. Like those are two all-pro level players, and they were the difference. And the Chargers only scoring 3 points. So it's kind of like I think that's where the the Mesidor conversation comes in, and the Dexter Lawrence for certain. I would be floored if they haven't made a call, especially considering the relationship, between the brothers Harbaugh.
Oh yeah, and money. I agree with Dexter can bring, and I understand his defense. It can be even more deadly with Dexter because no pun intended. But how are you when you look at this Chargers offense? And if this score, let's just say, it only gives you 22 points or 23 points, can you beat them? That
Yeah,
so do you say, I get that, but do I stop the press? Do I stop the press clippings? Because do I got to get better? If I can just score 21, if this team scored 21 points last year in the playoffs,
they
I
win a
mean,
game.
can you beat them?
Yeah,
That's a question. So I understand because Dexter, he's a man child. I mean, you got a double team, you put it just a center, have fun. He's going to beat your center. So, but where's the Chargers? You got this multi-million-dollar quarterback, one of the top highest paid quarterbacks who can actually throw the ball. He's been broken up. He's getting beaten up. He's the Bionic Man. He's getting all these. Can you afford? That's where I bring it to you. It's like this offense. If you score 21, who can beat you?
yeah, and I think that. And look, it's going to take two. I mean, let me just kind of pull up the draft order. 26 NFL draft order. Um, and I look at it, and I look at the play. Like if they offered 22, I could see the I could see the Lions offering 17. I absolutely because you're talking about teams that think they're in a position to win right now. Could the Vikings offer 18? I could see that. The Bucks offer 15 with Vita Vea. That's probably a little rich. I mean, and again, these teams have to have cap space. They've got to be able to absorb that. So I'd have to pull that cap table up too. Um, but yeah, to me, and again, I don't know if that's enough for an all-pro player that the Giants fans would probably be pretty upset over. But if you are in the process with a second-year quarterback, a second-year running back, a first-year head coach, you're kind of retooling along that defensive line. I don't think they're picking up the fifth-year option for Thibodeau, so Abdul Carter's going to be in that second year. Like it's possible they could say, yeah, give us another crack at that, at an offensive player to help out Jackson Dart on that side, because that's the one thing you've got to get right. You've got to get the quarterback right, and so that's something that I could envision. Maybe you could sell them on. If not, just to kind of wrap this up, because I know we're kind of on a little bit of a clock here. The the more I think about it, and I'm repeating myself from prior shows, but I just kind of want to hammer the point home. The more I think it's D line. I would be floored if it's not D line, whether that's trading for Dexter Lawrence or it's drafting one of those edge rushers, Mesidor, um, Cassius Howell. I think if you want to kind of look more on the Oweh mold of getting that speed rusher off the edge, just blazing speed to kind of fill out that room. Um, I think that's kind of more of what TJ Parker, Zion Young. I think there's like enough players that are now starting to find their way into the first round conversation. Young, I think, is very similar to a Khalil Mack and a Thule, whereas Howe is more of that, whew, you want to talk about get off, man. That ball is snapped and that dude is in the quarterback's lap like it's nothing. And I think I want to say the GPS numbers said that too. I think he had the fastest get off of anybody
Wow.
last year. So I do think, to me, that just it lines up more than guard at
Yeah.
that spot.
Well, I can tell you before I get out of here, money. I'll tell you without a doubt, 1,000%, Dexter will not be a Giant. He's tarnished. He's been defamed. He's been hurt. He's
Yeah,
been ridiculed. He's been talked about. And I know Harbaugh can go in there and say, this is a new slate. Hey, let's get tough and let's just forget this. Any bad play, it's going to be reoccurring. the fans, the media. He didn't play. He sat down. He's got to go get a fresh start. I think he's
Yeah.
going.
Yeah, I know Mike Williams retired last year, but maybe give him a call and ask him to recruit his old teammate. Mike, can you help us out? I'm going to give Dex a call and say I only want to get traded one place. I only want to go to L.A. Mike Williams had some great things to say about it. So good stuff, Lo. We're going to dig super deep into the draft next week. And
Good.
do you care about the Masters? Do you have a pick?
You know what? I'm going to go with Roy. I know everyone says
Okay.
he's slipping, and then I know he's like in the fourth position, but he just knows how to rise, and the
And won
dude's got
last year.
he just goes makes it happen. So I know one thing, he's going to be in the thick of this thing.
There we go. Love it. Love it, Lo. We'll be back next week. We'll dig into the draft as we're just a couple weeks out from there, and very much looking forward. Yeah, I think it is the 20th.
Yeah, you're right. 24th. It's
24th,
2 weeks.
Thursday.
Yeah, 24th.
Yeah,
Yeah, you were right.
yeah,
You're
2
right.
weeks away. All right, we'll be back next week. Dig deep into that draft. Get ready. Figure out maybe Dexter Lawrence will be a Charger by then.
Yes, both up, baby. Let's
Both
go.
up.